The essence of the story was that in the mountainous Kakasha, in a remote, inaccessible region of the Western Saiyan, people were discovered who had been completely cut off from the world for more than 40 years. Small family. 2 children grew up in it, who from birth had not seen anyone except their parents, and who had an idea of the human world only from their stories. I immediately asked, does Nikolai Ustinovich know this from his conversations, or has he seen the hermits himself? The local historian said that at first he read about the accidental find of geologists in one official paper, and in the summer he managed to get to a distant taiga corner. I was in their hut. He spoke, as now with you. Feeling Petrine times interspersed with the Stone Age. Fire is obtained with a crestal, lachina, in summer, barefoot, in winter, shoes are made of birch bark. We lived without salt. They don't know bread. They have not lost their language. But you hardly understand the younger ones in the family. They have contact now with the geological group, and, it seems, are glad to have at least short meetings with people. But they are still wary. They had changed little in their way of life. The reason for Hermetism is religious sectarianism, rooted in Petrine times. At the word Nikon they spit and overshadow themselves with 2 fingers. They speak of Peter I as a personal enemy. The events of recent life were unknown to them. Electricity, radio, satellites are beyond their understanding. The Robinsons were discovered in the summer of 1978. An aerial geological survey in the very upper reaches of the Abakan River discovered iron ore deposits. For their reconnaissance, a group of geologists were being prepared to land, and a landing site was selected from the air. The work was painstaking. The pilots have flown over the deep canyon many times, wondering which of the pebble spits is suitable for landing. On one of the runs on the side of the mountain, the pilot saw something that clearly looked like a vegetable garden. We decided at first what it seemed. What kind of vegetable garden, if the area is known as uninhabited white spot in the full sense? To the nearest settlement down the river 250 kilometers, and still a vegetable garden. Rows of furrows darkened across the slope. Most likely potatoes. And a clearing in the dark massif of larch and cedar wood could not appear on its own. Cutting down. And long. Standing. Having descended as far as possible over the mountaintops, the pilot saw something like housing near the vegetable garden. Another circle was laid. Housing. There is also a path to the stream. And the blocks of chopped logs are dried. There were no people, however, to be seen. Riddle. On the map of pilots in such deserted places, any residential point, even a hunter's winter quarters empty in summer, must be marked. And here is a vegetable garden. The pilots put a cross on the map, and, continuing their search for a landing site, they finally found it by the river, 15 kilometers from the mysterious place. When the geologists were informed about the results of the exploration, they paid special attention to the mysterious find. There were 4 geologists who started work at the Volkovskaya ore deposit. 3 men and 1 woman. Galina Pizminskaya, who led the group. Left alone with the taiga, they didn't lose sight of the fact that there was a mysterious vegetable garden somewhere nearby. In the taiga, it is safer to meet a beast than a stranger. And, in order not to be lost in conjectures, the geologists decided to immediately clarify the situation. And here it is most appropriate to cite a record of the story of Galina Pizminskaya herself. Choosing a fine day, we put some presents for possible friends in our backpack, but just in case I checked the pistol that was hanging on my side. The place marked by the pilots lay at about a kilometer mark up the mountainside. Rising, we suddenly went out onto the path. The sight of her, even to an inexperienced eye, could tell the path has been used for many years, and someone's feet have walked along it quite recently. In one place there was a small stick leaning against a tree by the path. Then we saw 2 storage sheds. In these buildings, standing on high pillars, they found birch bark boxes with dry potatoes cut into slices. For some reason this find calmed us down, and we already confidently walked along the path. Traces of the presence of people here now came across all the time. An abandoned warped tuasak, a log lying on a bridge over the stream, traces of a fire, and here is a dwelling near the stream. The hut, blackened by time and rains, was furnished on all sides with some kind of taiga rubbish, bark, poles, and George. If it were not for a window the size of my backpack pocket, it would be hard to believe that people live here. But they undoubtedly lived here. Next to the hut there was a green well-groomed vegetable garden with potatoes, onions and turnips. A hoe with fresh earth adhered to it lay at the edge. Our arrival was evidently noticed. The low door creaked. And into the light of day, as in a fairy tale, the figure of an ancient old man appeared. Barefoot. On the body there is a patched, wrinkled shirt made of sackcloth. From her there are trousers, and also in patches, an unkempt beard. Disheveled hair on the head. Frightened, very attentive look. And indecision. Shifting from foot to foot, as if the earth had suddenly become hot, the old man silently looked at us. We were also silent. This went on for a minute. I should have said something. I said, "Hello, grandfather. We are visiting you." The old man did not answer immediately. He stomped, looked around, touched the strap on the wall with his hand, and finally we heard a quiet, indecisive voice. "Well, come in, if you came." The old man opened the door, and we found ourselves in a musty, sticky darkness. Again there was a painful silence, which suddenly broke through with sobs and lamentations. And only then did we see the silhouettes of two women. One fought in hysterics and prayed, "This is for our sins, for our sins." The other, holding on to the pillar that supported the sagging mat, slowly sank to the floor. The light from the window fell on her widened, mortally frightened eyes, and we realized we must go outside as soon as possible. The old man followed us and, also quite embarrassed, said that these were his two daughters. Letting our new acquaintances come to their senses, we laid out a fire on the sidelines and got something from the food. About half an hour later, from under the canopy of the hut, three figures approached the fire. A grandfather and his two daughters. There were no more signs of hysteria, fear and open curiosity on their faces. Those who came up decisively refused the treats with canned food, tea and bread. "We can't do that." On a stone hearth near the hut, they put a pot with potatoes washed in a stream, covered the dishes with stone tiles and waited. To the question, "Have they ever eaten bread?" the old man said, "I ate something. And they are not. Didn't even see it." Daughters were dressed the same as the old man, in homespun hemp sacking. The cut of all the clothes was also baggy, holes for the head, a belt rope, and all solid patches. The conversation didn't go well at first. And not only because of embarrassment. We could hardly understand the speech of our daughters. It contained many ancient words, the meaning of which had to be guessed. The manner of speaking was also very peculiar. A dull recitative with a pronunciation in the nose. When the sisters talked among themselves, their voices sounded like slow, muffled cooing. In the evening, the acquaintance had advanced quite far, and we already knew the old man's name was Karpasipovich, and the daughters were Natalia and Agafia. Surname Lykovs. The youngest, Agafia, during the conversation, suddenly declared with obvious pride that she could read. Having asked permission from her father, Agafia slipped into the dwelling and returned with a heavy, smoked book. Opening her on her knees, she chanted, just as she spoke, recited a prayer. Then, wanting to show that Natalia could read too, put the book on her lap. And after that they were all considerably silent. It was felt that the ability to read was highly valued by these people and was the subject of, perhaps, their greatest pride. "Can you read?" Agafia asked me. All three of them waited with curiosity for my answer. I said that I can read and write. This, it seemed to us, somewhat disappointed the old man and the sisters, who apparently considered the ability to read and write to be an exceptional gift. But skill is skill, and I was now accepted as an equal. My grandfather, however, considered it necessary to immediately ask if I was a girl. In terms of voice and the rest, like a girl, but the clothes, this amused me and my three companions, who explained to Karpasipovich that I can not only write, read, but also am the head of the group. "Your deeds are inscrutable, Lord," said the old man, crossing himself. And the daughters also began to pray. With prayer our interlocutors interrupted the long, drawn out conversation. There were many questions from both sides. And the time has come to ask the main question for us: how did these people end up so far from people? Without losing caution in the conversation, the old man said that he and his wife had left people at God's command. "We cannot live in peace. The gifts we brought, a piece of linen, threads, needles, fishing hooks, were accepted here with gratitude." The sisters, looking at each other, stroked their hands, looked at the light. With this the first meeting ended. The parting was almost amicable. And we felt they will be waiting for us in the forest hut now. One can understand the curiosity of 4 young people who unexpectedly met a fragment of almost fossil life. On every fine free day, they hurried to the taiga hiding place. It seemed that we all already knew about the fate of the taiga recluses, who aroused curiosity, surprise and pity at the same time. I ask you to share these videos in your social networks, using the buttons under the video and subscribe to the channel. I ask you to go and watch other videos about Agafia Lykova, which you now see on the screen in the end screensavers.